Hey everyone, it's Ruthie from Fashionably Late, and I wanted to show you a quick little picture tutorial on how I painted my KitchenAid mixer. I'm not really sure how old this KitchenAid mixer is, but I inherited this from my sister. I was visiting her in Chicago at the time, and I was living in Colorado. And she said she never used it, so I said that I would take it off of her hands because I actually really love to bake. I don't cook very well, but I'm learning, but I love to bake, and I can make some amazing desserts, if I say so myself. Here is what you will need for this project. Metallic spray paint, and you want to make sure to look at the can and make sure that it's safe to use on metals, because if it doesn't say that, it might not adhere properly to your KitchenAid mixer. Now for my KitchenAid, I use the Rust-Oleum Bright Coat metallic finish in copper, and I love how bright and vibrant the copper is. You will also need an enamel spray paint, and it's super important to make sure that you get an enamel spray paint because it's going to be the best thing to keep your project protected. I used Rust-Oleum's Stops Rust Crystal Clear Enamel for a protective glossy finish. I wanted to keep the glossy look that is so known to KitchenAid. A great way to keep your surroundings safe from overspray is to use a spray shelter. Now HomeRight's spray shelter is my absolute favorite. They have 3 different sizes. You can get small, medium, or large. And for this project, I used the medium spray shelter. I also used HomeRight's turntable for this project because I really wanted a simple and easy way to turn the KitchenAid around when I was spraying. You will also need a cleaner of choice to clean off your KitchenAid mixer really well at the beginning. I actually used Lysol wipes and they worked great. Next you'll need is a screwdriver because you want to take apart as much of the KitchenAid that you are daring to do, but make sure you take some pictures ahead of time so you remember how to put it back together. For the areas that you couldn't take apart, you can use painter's tape to cover them up. If you're covering up a round screw, you can just use a box cutter or an X-Acto knife to cut around that area so you have a nice clean line. Last but not least, you may need some high grit sandpaper for your project, and I will explain that in a little bit. After you have your KitchenAid cleaned really well and taped up the areas that you couldn't take apart, it's finally time to add some color to your KitchenAid. Grab your metallic spray paint and start by doing very light strokes of paint. So you don't want to have a continuous spray on your spray paint. You want to do multiple small sprays so that you get a nice, even, and smooth coat. After you've sprayed your KitchenAid evenly, let it dry. Once it's dry, then you can open up the KitchenAid so that you can paint underneath. It's super important that you do this, but make sure to take it off of the turntable when you do this because when you open it up, the weight will be distributed differently and it'll fall off. You can do a second coat if you think that it needs it, but this paint is pretty strong, so 1 coat should probably be enough. When you're finished, let it dry for quite a few hours, even more than the recommended amount, and then it's time to add the enamel. You want to be extra careful when spraying the enamel. Again, you want to do short little sprays and make sure that you cover everywhere because this is your protective gloss that is going to keep your KitchenAid's copper finish beautiful. This enamel can be a little bit tricky and can drip really easily, so make sure you don't put it on too heavily. And like I mentioned before, if you do have a little bit of a drip, wait till it dries and grab some high grit sandpaper and you can lightly sand those areas, but make sure you don't do it too hard because you don't want to take any of the paint off. But after you do that, dust it off again and then just recoat as needed. I would let the enamel dry for a day or so before you bring it into the house. It says it dries pretty quickly, but you just would rather be safe than sorry and make sure that it has strongly adhered to your KitchenAid. But once it's finished, you can take off all of the painter's tape and assemble your KitchenAid back together and you're ready to use it. Not much is better than making over your already owned KitchenAid mixer for the cost of 2 spray paint cans than buying a brand new one at Williams-Sonoma, the copper one, for $600. Well, my 15-plus-year-old KitchenAid works great, and now it looks great too. Thanks so much for watching today, and make sure to hit subscribe. I hope you have a wonderful day, and I will see you next week. Bye-bye.